When people said no, they didn't want to invest in us, or no, they didn't want to take a meeting, we were like, okay, we'll be back. We had hustle. We went for it. We didn't take no for an answer, and we knew we would get him. And I think there's obviously an art to that, like don't be a stalker, and also learn when it's over. But I think
like be a limited stalker.
Be a limited stalker.
There are so many people who would love to do what you did, quit your job, and start a company.
Yeah.
What did people say when you did that?
Someone once said to us, I hate you guys because it feels like everything's been so easy for you. And I feel like that is just the biggest misunderstanding. This has been the hardest, I would say most rewarding, but hardest few years of our life.
Anyone who says it's easy, or you look at them and you're like, oh, they make it look so easy.
They're lying, or they don't actually work.
It's the toughest thing ever, especially for us, because we didn't have a tech background. We never went to business school. We didn't know how to use Excel. We didn't know how to code. But we've asked a lot of questions and made a lot of friends that could do those things, and now we have a great team.
You also had, at the time, though, a pretty cushy gig. I mean, most people would kill to be in the position to work for NBC, to work at the Today Show. What did your family say when you said, I'm going to leave?
Well, we love reminding them of this.
Yes.
Our family, we were both very close to our families, and they were very emotionally supportive, but they were really scared for us. I mean, we had no savings, and our parents really just kept begging us, like, hold on, can you just wait a little bit longer? And we kept saying, no, we can't.
I think my parents were really sick of hearing me talk about it.
Then our parents called each other, and then they talked about us.
They called each other.
They did. Our dads have calls. Like, on big days for us, they still talk about us, and I think, like, have a dad bonding moment, which is really nice.
I remember hearing our dads talk about, like, I don't think they should do this. This is really hard. They don't know what they're doing.
And we didn't. But, like, if we had known how hard it was, I'm so happy we didn't, because we would have thought twice.
I hear that all the time from entrepreneurs. Ignorance is bliss.
And you don't know how hard it's going to continue to be. And so it used to be like, oh, if I could just have a team, if I could just hire, if I could just have runway. And then you get there and they're a whole new set of challenges.
The stakes are just different.
Yeah.
There's always some crazy roadblock in front of you.
Always. Yeah.
So there's no place where you say, oh, we've made it, now we can rest on our laurels.
We have a lot of mentors who are a lot further along in their careers and in their businesses, and what they've said to us, for better or worse, is it doesn't get easier, just so you know. And it's actually very comforting to see them still deal with a lot of the same struggles.
Like, if you don't feel every day like part of you doesn't know what you're doing, you're not doing your job right, because you're not pushing yourself, you're not pushing the company.
When you first started, obviously really important to get it in people's inboxes in the morning before they see anything else. So what time were you waking up each day to choose the stories, write the stories, and then get them to your list?
For almost 2 years, it was just the two of us doing everything. And we honestly, we were up all night. We slept like we had a newborn baby. We were roommates. We would sometimes meet in the living room in the dark. We would G-chat from our rooms. It was a sight to be seen. We have since been able to hire a team. We have a wonderful editorial support team, but we still touch every word.
How many people put the newsletter together on a daily basis?
So that's the great thing about our company, is that we have 22 employees total. 3 of them are editorial. We knew what it takes to do like news at that level responsibly, and how many people and how many resources.
Specific voice, and it's an art form to scale that voice.
We needed to prove to investors when we did our seed raise. They were like, okay, great, you guys have traction, but can you train people to actually write in the voice of theSkimm? We had been set up from the beginning to do that. We actually had an intern sit on a couch across from us. He was like an 18-year-old guy, and he used to come over when we were like working out of our apartment, and he would just write down the decisions that we made, how long an average post is, if
words
words that were banned, and kind of just like our back and forth. He would record, and that's a style guide.
How did you decide on the voice, the millennial female voice?
It's the person that you go to and are like, okay, tell me what happened. And just the person who says it like it is, in a very conversational way. And so that's really what the voice is.
I think that's the differentiator. Like, we write how people actually speak, and not a lot of places do that.
Did you get pushback in the early stages? There's definitely publications out there that speak in a very different voice.
We did get pushback.
We do.
If you look at our if you look at the first articles that were published about us, it was that like first day we had 2 amazing articles come out that were like, here's theSkimm, this is our story, this is what we're doing. And then there were about 3 other ones that were like, we hate the idea of the Skimm, it's dumbing down news, it's just for like cocktail chatter. And I think we both don't understand why there has to be an appropriate, like, one size fits all. This is how you get news, and if you don't like getting news that way, then it's not for you. Like, there's a problem with that.
I also think, like, when we get criticism from people saying, you know, you're dumbing down the news, and I find that ironic and funny because of the Skimm, millions more are interacting and engaging with news when they wouldn't have before.
How much does the company today look like what you envisioned when you started?
We're still like literally in our laptops and jeans on a couch every day. I think the other thing that's the same is we know our audience. We've always known our audience. We still communicate directly with our audience, whether it's our Skimm ambassadors or we're responding to emails directly. And I think the vision, while it's gotten bigger, has to its core stayed the same of we want to make it easier to be smarter.
When we walk into work now, it's like we have
people to say good morning to.
Yeah, we have 22 employees and growing, and we have a full floor office. But I think what has stayed the same is that scrappy culture, which we spent a lot of time making sure that we hire people that kind of reflect us that way.
In those hiring decisions, and I often hear from startups, entrepreneurs, how difficult the hiring process is.
Terrible.
When I ask about the most difficult challenges, the biggest mistakes that they've made, it's always people.
Yeah.
How do you know when you're looking at that candidate sitting across from you on the couch that they're the right person?
I know very quickly when they're not the right person.
Yeah.
I think we've talked to a lot of people who have not hired that come off very entitled, that are like, this is where I went to school, this is where I work, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, can you do this job? People that don't feel passionate about our brand, that if you're not like literally dripping from your pores about like how much you love the Skimm, I don't want you in being invested in my company, and I don't want to invest in you. I think we also know when people don't show that they have a hustle to them.
You know, big red flags that have helped us are when people don't do their homework about the company or the two of us.
Yes.
Like, nothing
it drives me
crazy. Like, that's a waste of time. If you come in and you don't have questions, if you don't know, I mean, I had someone who I interviewed the other day who was like, and this isn't, we get this question all the time, unfortunately, but they were like, well, would you ever think about changing the voice of the product? And if you've ever heard us speak, it's like, no, people love the voice. That's the like backbone to our company.
The other red flag to me is when people say, are you guys still involved in the company? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even understand that question.
I think it's kind of funny though, because I'm like, how big do you think we are?
Yeah, and like, I'm like, I don't think you know what it means to be at a startup. I'm like, yes, I'm a little bit involved.
Yeah, I know.
Just a little bit.
But also, I mean, one thing that we really focus on during the interview process is how they interact with our team, from scheduling, being polite when things change, making sure that they write thank you notes, not just to us, but when they interview with other team members.
We literally have a column for every candidate, and have they gotten a thank you note? Have whoever they've talked to on our team gotten a thank you note? And we've literally weeded people out when we don't get thank you notes.
One of our first writers that we hired, we didn't think that she wrote a thank you note, and we were going back and forth over whether to hire
negative about her.
And then we ended up hiring her, which was the best decision we could have made. She's an awesome part of our team. And we were moving out of our first office, and we went to check our P.O. box, and there was a handwritten thank you note sitting there from her, and we told her about it.
We were like, oh my God, I can't believe you thought I wouldn't write a thank you note.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we've gotten better at is we've tried to be more opportunistic about great people who love the company and don't have what we're looking for right now, but can we hire them because we're going to need them in 6 months? And that was a mistake we made really early on, or actually that we're now catching up, which is that we used to hire like right when we needed someone.
And now we're getting ahead of it.
Yeah, it was creating a backlog.
Now that you've launched the subscription service, the business has changed. How did you decide to get into that business, and was there any pressure from your venture funders to do that?
There was no pressure from our venture funders to do that. One of the first things actually we got just advice from venture backers very early on was, don't think about the revenue. Get the good ideas out, get the growth. And I know that's something that's critiqued a lot in the Silicon Valley world. And we still got to make money, and we've always had that in the back of our head. But we were really, really intentional about, we have to grow this user base, get it to mass scale, which we did. And from there, we can get different portions of our audience to engage with us in different ways. And the way we came up with Skimm Ahead, which is our new subscription service, was the two of us thinking about what are other ways we can make it easier to be smarter. And one of the things, when we talk, we always have our phones out and, it's like we're talking but checking email and looking at stuff. And it was so funny because it was literally right in front of us the whole time. But I'm sure you can relate. I have no idea where I'm going until my calendar tells me.
Which is sad.
Most professionals can relate to that. And we realized that a lot of the continued feedback our friends would give to us is, you're telling me the State of the Union is on tonight, but I already had plans. I wish I had known about it before. Or you're telling me that you watched House of Cards last night in the Skimm, but I didn't know it was back. I wish I would have watched it. And we realized they were basically asking to get clued into what was coming up. And when we realized, okay, they want that, and our routine is to live in our calendars, let's just marry the two. And so for us, we spent a lot of time looking at subscription businesses. It's a really hard business to crack.
It's a crowded field.
Totally a crowded field. And you got to be really good for people to be willing to pay for something. And so we developed a product that we really felt like a utility.
We were always building more than a newsletter company. No offense to companies out there that have great newsletters and that's where they stop. But that was never our vision. You get this huge base. We're the fastest growing email newsletter on the market. We have unprecedented engagement. And from there, you roll off, your most engaged subscribers into other products. When you launch something, it either has to fit into the mass scale bucket in some way, or it has to fit into a revenue bucket. For us, the newsletter was about growth, and we certainly have a really strong revenue stream with our sponsorship and affiliates in the newsletter. But when we thought about launching Skimm Ahead, it fit into that revenue bucket.
I think the Skimbassador program, so smart. That's how you got this out there into the hands of so many people when you were initially starting with the newsletter. And you were very specific and smart about how you got Skimm into the hands of so many people quickly.
I wish we could say that it was so intentional.
Okay.
But it wasn't in the very beginning.
But I think that goes back to the resources that we had, which was we didn't have any money for paid acquisition. We didn't have any money for partnerships. We didn't have someone to say like, oh, this is how you grow it. We had our ability, I think, like you, similar training, we knew how to ask questions. And I think that went really far, where we asked people how they grew something. I printed up t-shirts and I went and I walked around and I went to Starbucks and handed out cards. And we had that similar view in the beginning where we don't have much, so let's use what we have. We're in this huge city. There are media people everywhere. Let's make sure we're always wearing our Skimm t-shirts. We still carry our Skimm bags.
Every single day.
Yeah, and I think you have to be so proud of what you're creating, and you have to be out there telling people about it, because no one is going to do that if you don't, and no one's going to do it better than you.
And I think also not overthinking it. I mean, I remember when people started writing into us when we launched, like, I love this, I never write into anything. Our first initial reaction to that was thank you, like have a great day. And when we repeated that to advisors and mentors, someone once said, well, did you ever ask them to share it? And I was like, no. I'm like, I guess that seems obvious, but like, it was just something right in front of us. It was so simple, we didn't. And so we started asking them to share it. And then they wrote back, did. And we were like, can you share more? And they're like, did it. And then they called themselves brand ambassadors. And then we were like, you're a Skimbassador. And then all of a sudden, just that request turned into now over 13,000 people that are onboarded into a very specific group of influencers that we communicate with daily. We talk to all the time. People have gotten jobs from it. They've met up in all of their respective cities. They've gotten travel itineraries. They've met their significant others. I mean, it's amazing. And
we've hired from it.
We've hired from it. 3 full-time employees started as Skimbassadors. So it's really an incredible, I would say, cornerstone of our company.
Outside of asking questions of the right people, how did you teach yourself sort of the world of business?
But there are 2 things that I think helped us. It was what we learned from our moms is the worst thing people can say is no, but also don't take no for an answer.
Right.
I love that. My mom said the same thing to me.
No, but it's so
and
true.
It's like
and again, it's so simple, but it's so true.
And it finally clicks.
Yeah.
It's like
so
what we needed
when
to
people
hear.
said no, they didn't want to invest in us, or no, they didn't want to take a meeting, we're like, okay, we'll be back. And we just kept coming back. And some of our earliest investors, I mean, one of our investors, our angel investors, we knew we wanted to have him. It was an important name for us to get to show, kind of validation very early on. He rejected meetings with us 4 times, and we, no joke, stalked him for 367 days. And so we met him, 10 minutes, he's like, I'll write you a check. And that was the proudest moment early on, because we were like, we had hustle, We went for it. We didn't take no for an answer, and we knew we would get him. And I think there's obviously an art to that, like don't be a stalker, and also learn when it's over. But I think
be a limited stalker.
Be a limited stalker. Yeah. But I also think we really learned how to network. It's more than just asking questions. Of course, you feel nervous, and like we take turns because we both like break out into a sweat.
And we have to give each other pep talks. And be like, they're just a person.
That's how you get in front of people. You know, we kept a list of every single person that we spoke to, and literally highlighted in red if they wouldn't give us money, highlighted in blue if we thought that they would give us money later on, green if they were interested in giving us money, and the rest, I mean, we just would send constant blast updates of like, this is how we're doing, we'd love to catch up. And we've built a network because of that. I mean, we have amazing mentors from before the Skimm, but we have a completely new network post-Skimm.
We've had founders say to us, like, I don't consider my company a success unless it's over $1 billion company. And to me, and to both of us, like, that's ridiculous. When we thought about raising money, that was certainly something that we thought about. Like, do we actually need this capital? Do we need this capital to do what we're doing now and what we're doing next? And if we take it, are we hurting our employees? And are we hurting the people that are actually, like, helping us build that? And I think we've made it clear to our team that they know, at least I hope they know, that they would trust us to be smart about those financing decisions.
So where do you go from here?
Up.
Building up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times I think of us as like construction workers, where we spent year one building the like bare bones frame of what we have now. We spent year 2 and 3 literally filling in like the team to help us do that, and now going into year 4, it's like we're going for it. We've said for so long we're not a newsletter company, but we took a long time to show everyone what we meant by that. I think with Skimm Ahead and our recent funding announcement, we're showing what we mean by that. But I think for us now, it's time to actually build that and to make it all happen. So, you know, when I interview people now, I'm like, we're going for it. Do you want to go for it? Because like that's what we're doing here. And you've also better read the Skimm.
Advice to people out there who want to build something themselves?
I've actually changed mine. I used to say what someone had once said to us, which was the only way you can fail is by not trying. And I still believe that it's good advice. But I think one thing that has really just become really important to me is I cannot stand when people don't know how to network. I don't care where you went to school, what you do, what you want to do. You are going to be the only person who can sell your story. And it doesn't matter what industry you want to go into, but you need to be able to talk about yourself, and you need to be able to create your career path.
If you think you're bad at that, how would you learn?
Practice, but also it's something actually that I did with one of our employees once, and I had them leave me voicemails about different stories about themselves. And then we would listen to them and rehash it together. And it's, how do you tell your story?
One thing no one said to us in the beginning is think long and hard about what you want to get out of this. Because you put so much into it, and I think the easy decision is deciding that you want to start something in a lot of cases. But 3 years in, 5 years in, 7 years in, do you love what you're going to do enough to stay with it and to have those low moments and those high highs? And are you the type of person that can handle that? I think there are a lot of ways to be entrepreneurial, and thinking about startups as, you know, do I want to go it alone? Do I want to start my own company versus am I just an entrepreneurial person? And working backwards from 7 years down the line, is this what I want to be doing? And do I feel like I have the mental stamina, the support, the finances to be able to do that? And I think it's a really hard thing that no one brings up. Like, can you actually do this?
I hate the word bucks, like instead of dollars, like they spend $50. I hate that word with a passion, and that is a banned word.
Rock, as in like a ring. We don't use that.
We hate exclamation points.
Oh yeah, that's
we
a big
never
thing.
put exclamation points in.